It was the first day of the semester and the campus was buzzing with energy. The hallways were filled with students chatting about their summer breaks, exchanging updates, and scrambling to find their new classes. You walked into the lecture hall with your usual group of friends, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness for the new semester. Your friends, however, seemed more interested in you than anything else. Okay, Spell, what's going on with you? You're glowing. Did something happen over the break? She said, grinning while Yuri narrowed her eyes at you. Yeah, you have been acting different and don't try to deny it. You have been smiling way too much lately. You laughed awkwardly, brushing off their comments. What? Can't I just be happy for no reason? Maybe it's the skincare routine I started. Liar, no skincare routine makes you look this happy. Something is definitely up. Or should I say someone? You felt your cheeks heat up as you tried to maintain your composure. The truth was you had recently gotten married. It was an arranged marriage, something you were still adjusting to, but the truth of revealing this to your friends made your stomach twist. You guys are ridiculous. I've been just eating healthier and sleeping more, that's all. You said, forcing a laugh while Joy raised an eyebrow. Sure. We'll get it out of you eventually. As you and your friends settled into your seats in the lecture hall, the room burst with chatter. Everyone seemed to be talking about the same thing, the new professor who was temporarily replacing your usual one until they recovered. Oh yes, did you hear about the new professor? I heard he's young, like maybe in his late 20s and really good looking. Yeah, apparently he's super smart too. Imagine having a professor who doesn't look like he's from the Stone Age. You're bashing that on rumors. For all we know, he could be another grumpy middle-aged man, you said without looking up. No way, I overheard a senior saying he's in his 20s and apparently he's a total heartthrob. I bet half of the girls in this room are here just to see him, including you, she said, smirking. Duh. Who wouldn't want to crush on their professor? It makes class so much more interesting. You chuckled and shook your head. You guys are ridiculous. He's probably not even that good looking. Joy leaned closer to you. Why so uninterested? Wait, don't tell me you have a crush on someone already. You rolled your eyes. No, I don't. I'm just here to study, the reason we are supposed to be in the class. Sure, but mark my words, when you see him, you'll eat those words. You rolled your eyes. I would never, not ever again. You said, smiling internally, because although your marriage is still new, you have fallen for your husband and he's so sweet and romantic. Just then the door of the classroom opened and everyone's attention shifted. A tall, striking figure entered, dressed in a tailored black suit. His hair fell effortlessly over his forehead and his sharp features drew collective gasps from the students. Oh my god, her jaw dropped. He's a walking K-drama lead. Your head snapped up and your heart sank. Standing at the podium with his signature confident smirk was Jungkook, your husband. He glanced around the room briefly and when his eyes landed on you, they stayed for a moment too long. Yuri nudged you frantically. Are you seeing this? He's gorgeous. Like, how are we supposed to focus in class? I take back everything bad I've ever said about professors. He's a perfection. While every girl was drooling over him, you were in shock to see him. Never in your dreams thought that your own husband would going to show up as your professor right after marriage. You felt embarrassed because you have bragged a lot about being a smart student, but now he'll know the truth. Why, what happened to you? Did you get lost in him too? He's like an angel, right? She said, shaking her shoulder while you gulped and looked at her. Yeah, he's decent. She scoffed and rolled her eyes. You were literally insulting him by calling him decent. He's a god of looks. Jungkook's lips curved into a subtle smirk as he caught the stunned look on your face. Good morning class, I'm Professor John. I'll be teaching this course for the semester, he said, smiling slightly and walking towards the smart board. This was the first time you have seen everyone in your class excited to start the class. You cover your face with your hands. No, 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 this can't be happening. Your friends exchanged glances at each other after seeing your reaction. Jungkook smiled when he again caught a sight of you. The lecture was going smoothly, or at least that's what it looked like to everyone else. For you, it was anything but smooth. Jungkook stood at the front of the room, teaching effortlessly, his rich voice echoing through the lecture hall. Despite your best efforts to avoid looking at him, you couldn't help but notice how confident and composed he was, as if he hadn't just turned your life upside down by showing up as your professor. But what made it worse was the feeling that his eyes kept drifting towards you. At first you thought you were imagining it, but every time you dared to glance up, you found him looking directly at you, his gaze steady and knowing. Your friends were already whispering about him, their excitement was bubbling over. I'm starting to think he could make a room full of people fall for him just by breathing, she said, nudging you. Forget a replacement. Can we just keep him as our professor forever? He's literally perfect. You rolled your eyes hoping they would drop the subject. He's just a professor. Can you guys focus on the actual lecture? But before they could reply, Jungkook's voice cut through the chatter in the classroom, and to your absolute horror, he said your name. YN, can you explain the concept I just discussed? He said, smiling slightly. The entire room went silent and every head turned in your direction. You froze, your heart pounding in your chest. What? I mean, could you repeat the question? You stammered nervously and surprised while his grin widened. I asked if you could explain the concept we just discussed. Your mind went blank. You had no idea what he had been talking about because you had been too distracted by his presence. Desperately, you tried to think of something, anything that might make sense. I think it's about, you said hesitantly. Jungkook's gaze softened, and to your utter disbelief, he leaned against the podium and said, "Take your time, sweetheart." The word hung in the air and the room erupted into whispers and giggles. Did he just call you sweetheart? She said, looking at you with wide eyes. Your face burned as you shook your head frantically. No, you misheard. He said something else. Oh, I definitely heard sweetheart. Are you guys secretly close or something? You panicked. Of course not. I barely even know him. He probably just slipped up. Meanwhile, Jungkook continued as if nothing had happened. Though you saw a faint smirk tugging at the corners of his lips. Alright, I'll give you a hint. It's related to the principle of diminishing returns. You nodded quickly, eager to divert attention back to the lesson. Oh right, it's the concept where the benefits decreases as more resources are added, right? Jungkook nodded approvingly. Exactly, well done. The moment passed, but the damage was already done. Your friends were buzzing with curiosity and you knew you wouldn't hear the end of it. You're glowing and now the professor is calling you sweetheart. Are you sure this is not something you're hiding? There's nothing. It was just a slip of the tongue. Can you please drop it? But as Jungkook continued the lecture, you couldn't help but glance at him again. The small smile on his face told you that he knew exactly what he was doing and he was enjoying every second of it. You couldn't take it anymore. After class, you marched down the hallway, determined to find Jungkook and get some answers. The way he had casually called you sweetheart in front of the entire class was bad enough, but the fact that he hadn't even mentioned he was going to be a professor made it 10 times worse. As you peeked into the staff room, you spotted him leaning against the counter, a cup of coffee in hand, his sleeves rolled up. He looked too relaxed for someone who had just caused you so much distress. Without thinking, you pushed the door open and stepped inside. John Jungkook. You called his name, crossing your arms. He looked up, a slow smirk spreading across his face. Ah, there's my favorite student. What brings you here, sweetheart? Your face burned at the nickname. Don't you dare call me that again. And what are you doing here? You said you were going to your company. Instead, you show up as my professor. Care to explain? Jungkook set his coffee down and straightened, his smirk never fading. Well, I wanted to surprise you, and judging by your reaction, I would say I did a pretty good job. Surprise? You call this a surprise? You could have at least told me you were taking this position temporarily. He shrugged, walking closer to you with a playful glint in his eyes. Where's the fun in that? I thought it would be exciting for both of us. Besides, I didn't lie. I do still have my company to manage. This is just a side project. You narrowed your eyes at him. A side project. You made it sound like you would be busy at the office, and instead you waltzed into my class like it's no big deal. Do you have any idea how awkward this is for me? Jungkook leaned casually against a nearby desk. Awkward? Why? Because I called you sweetheart? Don't worry, I'll make sure everyone knows it's just a term of endearment. No harm done. You groaned, running a hand through your hair. Jungkook, you can't keep playing games like this. I have to deal with my classmates, you know. They're already suspicious. Suspicious of what? That their new professor has a soft spot for the prettiest girl in the class? He said, grinning while you pointed a finger at him. Stop it, this isn't a joke. People are going to start asking questions and I'm not ready to explain anything yet. He tilted his head, his expression softening slightly. And why not? What's so bad about them knowing you're my wife? If anything, it will keep the guys from getting any ideas. Your eyes widened and you jabbed a finger at his chest. This isn't about them. It's about you blindsiding me like this. How could you not tell me? Because I knew you would react exactly like this, and it's adorable, he said, chuckling while he threw your hand up. Adorable. Jungkook, this is serious. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a teasing murmur. It's only serious if you make it serious. Relax, sweetheart. I've got everything under control. You stare at him, your frustration warring with the way your heart skipping a beat whenever he look at you like that. You're impossible. And yet you married me. He said with a wink. You opened your mouth to say something but found yourself at a loss for words. Instead, you turn on your heel, heading for the door. Don't be too mad, sweetheart. You're even cuter when you're angry. You slammed the door behind you, your heart pounding. As infuriating as he was, you couldn't deny that Jungkook had a way of making even your anger melt into something dangerously close to affection. The classroom atmosphere shifted over the next week. Every time Jungkook interacted with you, your classmates couldn't help but throw you curious, questioning glances. It was impossible to ignore their sudden heightened interest. Jungkook, on the other hand, never leaves a chance to call you sweetheart, and then you had to pretend like it was out of your knowledge, but they all got suspicious by now, and it was impossible for you to hide. After class, you walked with your friends, discussing the lecture. Hey, so, are you and Professor John like together or something? She asked with a mischievous grin. What? No, why would you even think that? You said, laughing nervously while Joy eyed you, raising her eyebrow. I don't know, maybe because he calls you sweetheart in class, and it didn't seem like he was just being nice, and the way he looks at you. You gulped and looked away. You know, it can be possible that he finds me attractive and maybe hitting on me. Not necessarily that we both know each other personally. You are avoiding to look at them. That makes you the luckiest of all. Then, I do think he likes you, and what about you? Do you? I mean, he's not bad. And you walked away quickly, squeezing your eyes, leaving both of them more curious to go to the depth of this mystery. One day, after a particularly awkward interaction with your classmate, you decided you had had enough. Standing in front of the lecture hall, feeling the eyes of your classmates burning into you, you took a deep breath. Hey everyone, I need to clear something up, you said loud enough to capture everyone's attention. The murmur of conversation in the room slowly died as your classmates turned to face you, their curiosity on top. With a sigh, you gather your courage. You guys are literally making it hard for me to pass the semester, asking whether there's anything going on between me and Professor Jungkook, so today I'm going to clear everything. All eyes were focused on you. You were nervous obviously, but you decided to clear this once and for all. So the truth is, Professor John and I, we are married. There was a moment of stunned silence, and then the classroom erupted into gasps and murmurs of disbelief. Wait, what? You're married to him? She said with wide eyes. No, I was planning to propose to you on graduation day, he said in disbelief but not that loud. That explains everything. The way he looks at you, the way he calls you sweetheart. Wow. Why didn't you tell us sooner? We thought you were just super close or something. She was shocked but also happy for you. Before you could say anything more, you heard the door creak open. Jungkook entered the room having overheard the commotion. He leaned casual against the doorframe, his smirk barely contained. Strictly professional during class, huh? That's why you blush every time I look at you, he said playfully. The class burst into laughter and you could feel your face turn bright red. You covered your face in embarrassment as your classmates' teasing continued. Oh, honestly, goals. You let out a frustrated sigh but couldn't hide the small smile tugging at your lips. Jungkook was always able to make everything feel like one big joke, even when you were dying of embarrassment. Now that the truth was out, Jungkook wasn't holding back. In fact, it seemed like he was only becoming more daring. One day during a particularly stressful class, you were working on a group project when Jungkook walked in carrying a bouquet of roses. He made his way directly towards you and the class immediately looked at you. For my favorite student and my favorite wife, he said with a charming smile. The classroom exploded into cheers and playful whistles. You could feel the heat rising to your face and you quickly buried your face in your hands, wishing for the floor to swallow you whole. Honestly, Ghost, I want a husband who brings me roses in the middle of class, she said, smiling. You could hear your classmates' laughter and teasing from all around, but it didn't make you feel any less embarrassed. Jungkook, on the other hand, looked perfectly at ease, enjoying the attention he was getting from the class. After class, you found Jungkook waiting for you in his office. He was sitting behind his desk, casually flipping through papers as if nothing unusual had happened. You just had to embarrass me in front of everyone again, didn't you? You said, standing at the doorway while crossing your arms. Jungkook looked up, smirking. What can I say? I love seeing you flustered. You shook your head, trying to appear stern, but the smile you were fighting was starting to break through. You are lucky I don't hate you. Jungkook stood up from his desk, walking towards you with that confident, teasing smile you couldn't resist. Your heart skipped a beat when he pulled you into a hug. You can never hate me because I love you like there's no tomorrow. Your heart melted at his words. Never in your life you thought you'll get such a sweet and loving guy. It was more than you expected and you don't regret the marriage even a bit. I love you too. He smiled and hugged you tightly. By the end of the semester, Jungkook was transferred to a different department, much to your dismay. But before his departure, he managed to throw a surprise party for you and your classmates, celebrating not only your academic achievements but also the unexpected way your love story has unfolded. Jungkook stood up at the front of the room holding a glass of champagne as he raised a toast. He spoke with a proud smile. To my wife, who not only survived being married to her professor but also aced this semester. You are my greatest success story. The room erupted into laughter and applause as you blushed at the attention. You shook your head, realizing that this chaotic, love-filled semester was something you wouldn't trade for anything in the world. As the party continued, you found yourself reflecting on how far you had come, how much had changed, and how in the end the love you had always tried to hide had bloomed into something beautiful, something you no longer had to hide from anyone.